welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is Jon Lester, and today I'm joined by two really exciting guests all the way from the United States of America. I'm joined by Eric Stromquist and Ken Smyers from the ControlTrends podcast. The way that we met was because we're fellow podcasters. You know, we like making a little bit of noise and passing information along to our industry. And you've got a great podcast called ControlTrends, which has been going for, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking years, right?
I think it's close to 10 years now, isn't it, Kenny?
10 years. That has to be a celebration, surely.
Yeah.
We have a Control Talk now. I think we're up at the episode, was it 338? So there's 338 of those out there somewhere.
Well, that's amazing. That's once we renamed it Control Trends, Control Talk Now. Before that, it was HVAC News of the Week. So
beautiful. And you know, one of the interesting things we've had a chat about it in just our discussions leading up to it is, you know, over this time, over all these different episodes, you've met so many people from the industry who do different things, that have different skills and different knowledge, but what we're centered around, you know, one of the things that translate to all of those people over this last 10 years of conversations is that buildings is our common language. Could you give me a little bit of an insight on what you think about that?
Well, sure. I'll take the first stab at that. Eric and I have been fortunate enough to travel on behalf of ControlTrends to various global events and basically report there. And one of the things we do is we go to these fabulous buildings around the world, and we see the remarkable architect and engineering to restore these buildings and make them functional and sustainable, and yet they're 600, 700 years old. And so Eric and I had made a point that, you know, no matter where you go in the world, you know, once you step inside of a restaurant or a building or, you know, a train station, we're faced with the same problems. And that is, you know, providing HVAC, cooling, air conditioning is very critical in certain times, and of course heating, but the indoor air quality. But Europe gave us a great sense of the greenery aspects. Everything, you know, is organic. Everybody's trying to make an effort to sustain and be a good steward, and that's kind of neat. That's a universal thing. It's coming to the States too, so I think we're on board with that.
Yeah, I would agree with what Kenny said. I mean, I think energy savings is kind of a common thing that everybody's trying to accomplish. I think, to Kenny's point, more so in Europe and maybe in Australia too. It seems like energy might be more of a driver, but also I think we're seeing the tenant comfort being a common denominator there, meaning that I think the savvy building owners are realizing that their building now can become a differentiator. As you get the millennials and all, they could have a space that they can work in. It has to be controlled well, and they have to feel like they have a symbiotic relationship with it.
Yeah, I really love that point, because absolutely, I think as an industry, we're getting a better understanding of that impact that the building has because we spend so much time in them. You guys are out on the road every day. You're out talking with people in the industry in different parts. Is this a conversation that you're having regularly?
Oh yeah. I see in our part of the world, United States, a lot of things are optional. You know, so building owners, they make decisions, you know, first cost or whatever, and then our job is to try to get all those messages that we had talked about over the time, 330, 300, and then where's the best investments and how to make things, you know, modular. You know, get control of it. You know, and then of course this enormous appetite for data, and basically. Each part of the world that we've seen has a different style of approaching that. You know, certain countries, there's no choice. You are going to get this done, or there's going to be a handsome penalty to pay. In the United States, we're still trying to, we've got 50 different states with 50 different ways to solve the same thing. So there's no cookie cutter approach. We got to go in. So we have our hands are really challenged. Our hands are full of telling the message of why these building owners need to adopt these things, because they're both, you know, economical for energy savings, and then they give the best user comfort. And then we have security and safety that's really becoming hot. And so we got to integrate those whole concepts into a single platform.
Yeah, I would echo what Kenny's saying. I think in the States now, it's less driven maybe by energy savings, where a lot of things that are optional. So I think that is both an opportunity and also an obstacle, meaning if you're just focused on low cost, low price, and not creating more value by bringing things to an owner's attention, like tenant comfort and using your building as a differentiator by having people in the building be more effective, then you're probably playing on the wrong end of that field. So I think it's the people that are doing that are being very successful, and I think we're shifting more from a price only to a value plus price type model.
Yeah, which is only a good thing, you know, because cheaper is not better, and these are such important pieces of infrastructure. They're such important assets. Do you find a challenge, because it's great to hear that this conversation's happening more often, but energy is something that's quite easy to measure. We have a meter somewhere, we can do a report, we can compare it to last year after we made some changes, and we can put a number down. How do you see it in your industry, in your conversations? How do you quantify, or how do you have that conversation to justify that investment effectively?
Well, I want to start with this because it's going to sound a bit strange, but it all depends on where you are. If you're in California or Texas, it's less optional. In Georgia, for instance, where I am, you got to realize these utilities are publicly traded companies, right? So they got to make money. So you don't get many incentives for saving energy in Georgia right now. Very, very few. Whereas if you go to Pittsburgh or other areas of the country, they're more incentive driven by the power companies to conserve energy. So I think it sort of depends on where you're at. Would you agree, Kenny?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, the mighty dollar, takes first precedent. But we're seeing some interesting things with those metrics that you're talking about. Like one of the great initiatives was with lighting. Now that they've actually been able to produce a metric that means that lighting has such a great impact on people's behaviors and productivity that different school systems are adopting an 8-scenario, routine for lighting at different times of the day for the students. When they come in, they're all jumping, getting off the bus, and it's noisy and everything. They do something with the lights, So it created a great interest and concern, how that was going to be addressed, because there's no universal standard, but they know that there's something there. So the metrics have come forth with the circadian rhythms and the stuff that they did, from increasing chicken production, egg production with chickens, all the way now to the healthcare industry, that if they can take care of those lights and integrate it with HVAC, they can get a patient out of the hospital and help them recuperate quicker. So those things are coming to light, yes.
I absolutely love that, because it's not just, driving these systems and ensuring that we do our job really well has a positive impact on the users of the building, but also we can start to design our control strategies around those outcomes. Like that's a really powerful change compared to having a single focus, but a challenge. How do we absorb this as we get more understanding? It could be like technology. We're using lighting control and understanding circadian rhythms. It could be the next day we decide that at 3:00 in the afternoon we need to change our set point for CO2 so that we can get people excited again. Like this is a fun but a slippery slope that we could be on. Eh?
Well, John, I think so. And then here again, in the U.S., unfortunately, because of the gun laws or whatever, we have all these shootings in schools and stuff like that. It's very, very unfortunate. But, here's sort of an interesting thing where the control system can become one of the hub centers, right? And, Kenny's company handles a product, and it basically hooks into the front end system. So if there's a shooting, it identifies where the shooter is via a gun flash and a gun sound, so that when the first responders get there, they know where the perpetrator is, and seconds can save tons of lives. So I think at the heart of it is begin to think of the control system as more than, like you said earlier, just temperature controls. There's so many things it can do because we're connecting IoT devices and all kinds of devices together. So again, it's sort of like you're an artist and you've only painted with 1 or 2 colors, and now you got a whole bunch of colors. You can create whatever kind of masterpiece you want. It's just dependent on your imagination and your ability to communicate the value to the person that's ultimately going to pay for it.
I couldn't agree more. I think how exciting is it that all of a sudden we're to the point of not having to focus on our traditional aspects of the industry, but start to use all of our systems as our eyes and ears to start to have positive impact across all the different aspects of the building.
Absolutely, and I think it's been an interesting evolution, but the technology's here. There's no question about it. I mean, some of the great minds and some of the great works from the big companies, the big mature vendors that have really produced basically the first world reality that we live in that makes this possible. And then you have all these other startups and different people from the IoT world coming in and looking at it. So now they're presenting this technology, so it's a matter of adoption. And in one of your previous podcasts, you mentioned that there are big difficulties, say, even with cybersecurity, is each single building presents its own set of opportunities and challenges.
Yeah.
Each building, each school district, each corporate center introduces different sets of people that represents opportunities and challenges. And you can't get really proficient at something that has so many swinging variables and moving parts that so what you have to do is rely on the different the ASHRAEs and the building codes and the BOMAs but more importantly the education of the owner and the end user.
Yeah, absolutely. And this new generation that come with so much creativity and skill to start to find new applications for all this information we're collecting and find those opportunities in one building or 100 buildings that could completely change that scope. It's a really exciting time.
Sure is.
Eric, Ken, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Everyone who's out there, please take the opportunity to listen to Control Trends. It's a great podcast. It really gives some great insights. And also, please ensure to like, comment, and share this episode and subscribe to us here on this channel. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.